How's everybody doing today? We're back with another episode of awkwardness, I guess. And anyways, a lot of people have been asking about this car. They see in the background pictures of my shop. There's a lot going on in my shop right now. I've got a fairly big shop, but I have it jammed to the gills right now with race cars. Some are rolling, some are getting hot side turbo stuff done, suspension work, basically everything in between. And this customer here, Cody, he drives a Trackhawk right now. The frustration level with this customer fighting the same battle that Mike Corley was fighting with his all-wheel drive got to the point where he'd had enough. The car count's dying in his classes. He traveled to Milan last weekend with us. Well, not with us, but he was there, and basically to race 4 or 5 cars, so the class is dying. And which the worst part about that is they just had some kind of Hemi shootout the day before, so there was tons of fast Hemis there, and none of them stayed for the no prep, which is very confusing. It sucks because that's a cool class, and Cody's put so much money into that Jeep, so much time into that Jeep to make that Jeep what it is now. And with the car counts dying, driving 5 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, in his case, way more hours than I drive to go to the States, to potentially win $400 is just very frustrating. And then every step of the way, people are saying, oh, well, you're all-wheel drive, of course you're going to win. At the end of the day, I've never had an issue running against all-wheel drive cars. I've done it the last 2 times in the States, and there's no issue with it. It's supposed to be the baddest cars on 28s, not the baddest, stock this, stock that. It's the baddest cars on 28s. So anyways, getting back to this project, this was brought to me as a shell. When the customer sent me the pictures of this car, with a 70 Nova, you're always excited anyway because they're a gorgeous car. And this thing was in primer, which was awesome because I thought, okay, here we go. We got a car that I can get in. The body work's already done on this thing. I got to block it, sand it, paint it, and that's a big savings on my part because you never want to drive somebody else's car, no matter, you always want it to be your own. So we always paint it to make it look cool. We did the Chevelle that I just got done. The customer made it his own car, so we're doing the same on this car. Basically, Cody wants this thing to be clean, simple, and look angry. So we checked all those boxes, but we got it up on the hoist, and I noticed that the frame ties were cut, and they already put floors in this car and quarter panels. So somebody was in the midst of a restoration on this car, and basically what happened was I decided, okay, well, I'll just weld the frame ties back into this car, away we go. But when I got the frame ties welded back in, I noticed when I put the car on the ground that there was a wrinkle in the driver's door pillar just up the window. So that told me that there was lots of stress when I put the frame ties back together. So what had happened is I left it on the ground flat on the jig and cut the frame ties. And as soon as I cut the frame ties, the car relaxed, which told me that they had put, whether they did it right or wrong, they probably did it on a 2-post hoist. You can never get them too close when you're doing that kind of stuff, and when you're that deep into a restoration, eyeballing it's tough. So anyways, I had cut the frame ties completely back out of the car, right off the floor, straightened the car out. It was 3/4 of an inch out, almost an inch at the back on the driver's side. So we got that all straightened out, welded back together, put the floors back together. I had to stiffen the frame ties up because they were just old school 2x3s. We wanted to we didn't want to back half this car. We wanted to leave this car like a street car. So I was hoping I could leave the factory frame in the back of this car and just tie it up, make it strong. But I cut the rear cross members that the previous customer had done out, and they were making it for a road course car. So it was set up for an unequal 4-link with a, whether they were going to run a wishbone or whatnot in the back. But anyways, I cut all the brackets out of the car and mocked up, built my cross member for the new 9-inch with a ladder bar to go in the back. And as soon as I went to grind the cross members, the grinder revealed that the frame itself was beyond gone. They had just cleaned it up, primed it, make it look mint. So I had to cut the back frame rails out of this car, most of the floor, trying to keep this thing as factory as I can because it's a beautiful car. I had built my own 2x3 chassis for the back of this car, formed it to the factory floor, so that way we didn't have to do much cutting. The only cutting I had to do in the floor was I had to build a section where the back seats would go, just so that way we would get enough adjustment out of the four-link or the ladder bar without having to destroy the floor and make it look like crap. So I had put a new rear frame in the car, new floors, and with that I upgraded the cross member because we were basically on a chassis now, and braced everything to the frame ties. But Intel led to me having to put a little bit more of an upgrade of a roll cage in this car to stiffen this thing up, because the car was already at the point where if I built the car and sent it out, it would be back the next season for the rest of the roll cage anyway. So we just got it done and over with, got it out of the way. But basically the customer let me build what I wanted. So the ladder bar design is a completely one-off design that I did. The front end is based off a Camaro, like everybody does, the Easy with the Nova. We got rid of all the crappy steering. We put a nice steering rack in it with a bump steer kit, long travel control arms. The car has potentially 9 inches of travel reach in the front, and the rear of the car has 5 adjustment, and you can make it hit as hard as you want without having to put a ton of weight. And with the big block, I moved the big block back about 8 inches from where it would be in the factory. The number 1 cylinder is on the spindle line, so that hopefully with the TH400 is going to give us a 56% rear bias without any weight in the back, which is a good start. It's nice when you don't have to put 700 pounds of lead in the car to make it work. The lighter it is, the faster it goes, but if your bias is off, you're just going to be spinning the tires and fighting it the whole time. So basically, that said and done, I redid the floors basically from where the frame ties stopped at the front, which is just behind the front of the door. I ended up having to put a new transmission tunnel on this car because Cody wanted this car to sit in the weeds, so we made everything up. Transmission tunnel, and I made a removable firewall for the inside. That way you can get at the transmission bolts really easy without having to fight and all that other crap that comes along with trying to push an engine back as far as you can into the firewall. So everything is still accessible on it. I gutted the front end, got rid of most of the factory stuff, left the factory frame rail, but basically it's on a skeleton now, so the front end is as light as I can make it, with keeping the steel, everything, and the bezels, all that stuff, to make this look like a almost stock Nova. It's still got stock wheel openings, stock everything, and basically the car should weigh about 2,900 pounds when it's all said and done, with 56% biased rear, which will be a good starting point. The big block puts out, we'll say triples in the horsepower range, lots of torque. It's a nitrous car, big block with a carburetor, very easy to work with, very easy for Cody to make subtle adjustments with. Basically, once you get a carburetor working right, you don't touch much of it. That's it. You adjust your timing every once in a while, put a different pill in the nitrous jet, and away you go. And that's what we kind of wanted for Cody, to be independent at the track. And this is the best way to learn for a customer without having to use a laptop, rely on people for injectors and cleaning and all this stuff like that. So this is a great step for him, and later on he can put it on a Dominator, get this thing on EFI, or put it on alcohol, whatever he wants to do, and the car will make way more power. That said and done, we're just basically doing some panel fitting right now. We're trying to get this car out in the next week or two, and we've been waiting 4 months for a set of wheels for this thing that I ordered through 330 Motorsports. That has just been nothing but a headache for me. In the last 3 years, I've never dealt with shipping as bad as it is right now. I've got customers waiting up to 6 to 8 weeks for parts. no availability right now, and the problem is you're kind of at the mercy of the supplier and the shipper. So that said and done, I'd ordered another set of wheels that for the car, just to get them by for right now. The car should be a top contender in the small tire, but with the potential where he can take this car, go to the street and put a carpet in it, seats, whatever he wants to do, and turn this thing, put exhaust on it, and basically turn it into a true street car, because everything is there. The factory floor is still there. It's got the firewall, it's got the dash, it's still got the factory setup floor into it, so you can put a carpet in this car. All we did was get rid of all the garbage and clean it up and put all the fuel system in the trunk without having to move anything or cut anything or modify it to the point where this car could never be returned to a original SS. It's mini tubbed right now. I finished putting the mini tubs in. The previous customer had them in, but they were just tacked in place. So I finished them all up, and the car should fit a 28 10.5 with the potential of an 11.5, 12 maybe even on the rear. It's got a 9-inch 40 spline gun drilled axles. It's a full build from scratch in the 9-inch. It's my own ladder bar with 5-hole adjusters. Yeah, so I'll take you through a little bit of this car. You tell me what you think, and I'll finally get to show you a little bit of behind the scenes on this thing, what it's like to do a fully in-depth build where, every corner is a surprise.